Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we are fresh off 2 weeks off in the NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series. We'll catch up with David on what he's been up to in his time off and look ahead to this weekend's race at Watkins Glen. Plus, we'll have a look at your news and notes and ask David coming up at the end of today's show. Let's Go Racing is presented by Whataburger. Don't forget that every Whataburger is made fresh, served hot and prepared just like you like it. Want jalapenos and cheese on that? No problem. They've got you covered. Whataburger, proud to serve it hot and fresh 24 hours a day. David Starr joins us right now. David, how we feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. It's good to be back home, and I've been on the go here the last 10, 12 days, but it's great to be back home, and man, it's good to see you guys, man.
We missed you, David. We had a week off last week, but we're back in the saddle again. Dominic Aragon from the RacingExperts.com is here as well. Dom, what's going on?
What's going on? Just enjoying life here in the city of Vision, Grants, New Mexico. Nice to be back home. So awesome to be doing the show again with you guys. 33 episodes in. Time's just flying. It's like moving in warp speed.
It's been a lot of fun, no question about it. David, you had some time at the beach the last few days. That tan's looking good, my friend. How are we doing off the beach visit with the family?
Man, it was awesome, man. Got to, you know what? I really don't have much time to take vacations, but my dad, the Starr side of our family, my dad's side of the family, man, we get together, try to get together once a year and do a beach house somewhere. It's usually in Galveston, just south of Houston, Galveston, Texas. And this time we went to Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's on the state line of Florida and Alabama. And, man, we had an awesome beach house. And I believe there was about 50 of us there. Not all my family, but a lot of them. And, man, we had a great time. We were there for 6 days. And, man, we swam in the ocean for every day, played on the beach. We fished. We snorkeled. I mean, we rode go-karts. We rode a banana boat. Man, that was awesome. We parasailed and man, we caught a lot of fish. And man, it was fun to catch up with your family, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, and people like that you don't get to see every day. And man, it was just man, it was a lot of fun. That's for sure.
How important, David, is this time off for the drivers to have this summer break now that you won't have another break between now and the end of the year? I'm seeing one thing where Matt DiBenedetto's getting baptized by Michael McDowell and, Kurt Busch is overseas and such. Tell me about just this time off for everybody. What does it do for the mental health aspect going down this final stretch?
Man, we're all racers. Man, if I could race every day, I would. That's for sure. But I think a lot of times is step away from the competition side. Step away from it. Spend a little time with your family, your kids, your wife. Or family vacation with the family. Gives you time to reflect on other things. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? I can't really remember having 2 weeks off in former years, but I don't think it's bad for any of us. You know what I mean? And I think it's time to kind of relax, catch up on some personal things, family time. And man, I'll tell you, when they dropped the green flag coming up this week at Watkins Glen, I think everybody will, they'll kind of be rejuvenated per se, and ready to go try to get a championship, win races, and do the best you can. You know what I mean? So I think it's great for everybody. And the teams. We didn't even talk about the race teams and the crew chiefs and the team, your fabricators and your mechanics and everybody that makes our racing teams what they are. These guys, man, they put a lot of heart and desire and passion working on these race cars week in and week out every day, and the sacrifices that they make with their own kids and their own families. And man, they don't get much time off. I think the drivers and maybe the team owners And, I think we have a little bit more time with our families, I believe. But I think it's really good for our teams and the crew members to just get to have some time with their families. I think it's only fair, and I think it's good for the morale of the team. And I think everybody will be kind of refreshed and ready to get back after it and finish up the season strong. So not only as the drivers, it's for the teams and just everybody involved, even you media guys. When you're when you're on the road week in and week out covering the sport, doing what you guys do. I mean, having a week off or 2 weeks off, I mean, it's not a bad thing. What's y'all's perspective on it?
Yeah, it's needed. Certainly no complaints about it. I know NBC in particular were the ones that wanted the off time so they could get these Olympic games in and have those broadcasts covered and such. But I've certainly enjoyed it and looking forward to seeing some racing action again here at Watkins Glen. And Dominic, now we enter the home stretch of the NASCAR season. It's been a crazy, fun year so far at this point. And now you got 4 races, the run to the playoffs before the 10-race playoffs begin. And looking at the playoff picture too, 5 points just separating 16th and 17th on the Cup side here. Things are about to be crazy over these next few weeks. And these 4 races too, I mean, you're talking about Watkins Glen, the Indianapolis Road Course, Michigan, and then Daytona. I mean, all hell's about to break loose, it feels like, over these next few weeks.
You're not wrong. And Tyler, you being a sports guy and kind of delving into every little sport that you cover, I mean, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the hype we have now on this little 4-week stretch, these 2 road courses, an intermediate track and a super speedway, the hype that has been surrounded over a 2-week break kind of gives me that feel of like when you get that off week between NFC and AFC championships and the Super Bowl. That's all everybody's talking about. Who's going to win the big game? What's going to happen in the Super Bowl? That's what I feel like I've seen on NASCAR Twitter. That's what I feel like when I've talked with NASCAR fans or other people in the industry. Who's going to make the playoffs? What's going to happen over these next 4 races? This hype has been built up, and these next 4 races, I think more people are going to tune in. At least I think so, because there's been more hype and there's been more anticipation that is surrounding it.
Well, to me, David, what's interesting about these next 4 races is that, I mean, when you talk about a super speedway, 2 road courses, and an intermediate track, there is chances for guys that there wouldn't be otherwise. We saw Eric Almirola win on an oval before the break, and now you get to these courses that are an equalizer of sorts here. I mean, this could be wild here, what we're about to see. There's some opportunities for guys these next couple of weeks that there wouldn't normally be.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially Daytona. That's kind of it's kind of like, anything can happen there. An underdog could win that race. And, speaking of the road courses, these road course aces, I mean, you look at Chase Elliott and then I think of Denny Hamlin, you look at Kevin Harvick. Some of these guys are in dire straits of a win, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, it's just like Dominic was saying, there's a lot of hype around these next 4 races. I wanted to ask you guys, because I don't have the point standing right in front of me, but, the top 16 guys will make the playoffs. Can you tell us who's 14th, who's 15th, who's 16th, who's 17th? I mean, who's on the outside looking in right now?
Dominic, go ahead. I believe you have it pulled up, right?
Yeah, I got the full list right here. Yeah, I mean, Denny Hamlin, I think, is a guy you really got to really consider here, because here's a guy, you look at the points over the last 6, 7, 8 races, and it looks like Kyle Larson's just right there on the cusp of taking the points lead. Denny Hamlin held it for as long as he has. Now, the thing with Denny, he has yet to win a race. And at one point, he led the most laps during the season, 9 top 5 finishes to open the year. He makes the playoffs by being the regular season champion. NASCAR has it in the rule book that regardless if you have won a race or not, if you are the regular season champion, you're going to be in the postseason regardless. Now, if Hamlin were to be second or third or fourth in points, I mean, we still have that possibility, guys, where we could have 17 winners. And somebody who actually did pick up a win in the regular season is snubbed from the postseason. Right now, that would be Eric Almirola if a few guys ahead of him did win a race. But I mean, looking at the point situation right here, right? You brought up, Tyler, about 5 points separating 16th and 17th. That's Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon. RCR teammates. I mean, imagine what those competition meetings must be like on Monday mornings, and especially what it's going to be like after.
They're not teammates anymore.
Yeah, they're not going to be teammates anymore. Exactly, right? I mean, your teammates to a point, as they like to say in NASCAR. But you're right, guys like Kevin Harvick, a guy, David, we've talked about this dude so much. 9 races won last year, barely missed the cut for the championship 4. And you're telling me this guy might not even make the postseason the next year. That's hard to fathom, because you look at the variety of races, you look at the road courses. What about like a Chris Buescher, a Chase Briscoe? What if one of those 2 guys pulls off a victory in the next couple of weeks? And then you have the wild card at Daytona, where virtually anybody can win. You throw all 40 car numbers in a bingo basket and you pick out a number, that's going to be your winner. Anybody can win at Daytona. There's just so much hype, and it's going to be really exciting, not only as a fan, but I think as somebody covering the sport. There's just so many things to look at, so many cool storylines. And as a fan, it's great excitement that's being anticipated over these next 4 races.
Man, I think you guys are right. You know, I have a lot of friends and family, and you know, and it's interesting. One of my family members on our vacation was asking me, "Hey, who you think's going to make the chase? Who's going to be out?" You know, and I'm like, you know, this, you know, one of my cousins, you know, he's into football and baseball, you know, not NASCAR, and it was kind of interesting that he's keeping up with it. You know, I think our sport has really delivered some excitement, you know, and having these playoffs, and you know, all the guys that are winning, the ones that aren't, you know, it's drama every week. And I'm glad to know that, you know, all these big stories that we see week in and week out, you know, it's drawing non-racers attention, you know what I mean? So our sport, you know, it's cool to know it's growing, and other people that aren't traditional race fans are keeping up with it. So that's kind of cool, you know. But, you know, it's kind of funny to hear Tyler say, you know, Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon, they're not teammates anymore, and they're on the same team, you know, because man, wow, there's some pressure going on at RCR, and you know, how's that going to turn out? So you know, it's going to be interesting, and that's what's kind of cool about our sport, you know. And man, whoever, you know, when NASCAR came up with this new playoff plan, man, they hit it right on the nail, didn't it? Because it's been exciting every year, that's for sure.
Oh, it's been incredible. They've done a great job putting together this system. I mean, there was a lot of hiccups along the way, but I think we've gotten to a point with this playoff system where we all feel satisfied, where it's worthy of the moment. Is it perfect? No, but it's as good as it's been, I think, since they installed the chase back in 2004. Now, with all this being said, guys, I'm looking at, you know, where the playoff standings are at. And Dominic, you mentioned guys like Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick have yet to win in 2021. I'll look back. Let's go back in the hot tub time machine a little bit to 2011. Tony Stewart did not win a race the entire regular season, rattles off 5 wins in the playoff, and ultimately won the championship. I mean, Chase Elliott last year was not great in the regular season and rallied off wins in 3 of the last 4 races to win the championship. Guys, I would say, despite Hendrick's dominance and the way things are pointing to, I'll start with you, David, on this. I feel like that between having these 2 weeks off, kind of reset things and such, and going into the playoffs, that we could still have a champion that hasn't even won a race at this point. I think there's still enough time to figure things out to get rolling to have a great playoff run here.
Man, I totally agree with you. But I agree with you. But man, I'm thinking about what you just said, and I mean, when you come to who's the favorite win of the 2021 Cup Series champion, and it's hard not to think about what Kyle Larson has done, you know. And
yeah,
you look at Kyle Busch, what he's done, and those Hendrick cars have been strong, but you know, it's you know, I think it's all about being there. They'll be in the last 4, and then really competing well at the last race, you know. And it's kind of interesting that our champion that we crowned at Phoenix last year was the race winner, you know. And the competition is so stiff, you know. But I think, you know, you gotta talk about Kyle Larson's a favorite, you know. But man, anything's possible, because these teams, all these guys in the top 16, the guys in the playoffs, I mean, anything is possible. Anybody can win any given race. So that's what's exciting about it. Just sometimes you think, well, this guy's going to win this race, or, he's going to be strong. And next thing you know, you're like, wow, never even thought about Aragon winning New Hampshire. You know what I mean? So you just, you never know. You just never know who's going to hit it, be on their game at the right time, and Kevin Harvick has surprised us. I'm surprised by Stuart Haas, them not being as dominant in 2021 because they were so dominant over the last couple of years. But we did see Eric Amarillo kind of dominate that race in New Hampshire. Who's to say that, they're peaking at the right point of the season, you know what I mean? And Kevin Harvick drives for Stuart Haas. So, it's going to be interesting, but man, I'm just as excited as you guys to see how it all plays out, and it's cool that the race fans are loving it, and we're drawing in new fans because it's so exciting. So it's kind of cool.
What say you, Dominic? Can somebody that hasn't won flip that switch and go on a run through these playoffs? Do you think it's possible?
Well, when you mentioned like the Tony Stewart run of 2011, he squeaked in the postseason that season. 5 races rattled off, won the tiebreaker against Carl Edwards, Chase Elliott last year. It can be done. You're right. You never say never in sports. I think that's what makes sports such a great story to tell and a great story to watch unfold, because it's not scripted. You never know what can happen. But I kind of see where David's coming from here too, guys, because it's so hard to say that Kyle Larson may not be the champion. I just don't know. I mean, right now, right, they're peaking at the right time. Hendrick Motorsports has won so many races. They look like they're the dominant team. Joe Gibbs Racing is right there. Yeah, we certainly could have some surprises, but Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, I feel like would be the guys to go on a run like that if something like that were to happen. There's Joe Gibbs Racing power. Kyle Busch has won races. Martin Truex Jr. has won races. Let's be honest, Hamlin should have won a couple races by this point, but we could easily play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. Kevin Harvick, do you rely on past success? Are you able to rely on some of your teammates in the playoffs? Remains to be seen, but makes you wonder. Those two guys would probably be the most probable to pull something off like that. Tyler Reddick is another guy that I keep looking at, and somebody who just keeps silently rattling off these 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th place finishes, piecing together a very consistent year. May not even make the playoffs, but makes me wonder if he can squeak in the playoffs. Could we see Tyler Reddick go on a phenomenal run in his 2nd year? That's the great beauty about sports. You never know what can happen.
Well, go ahead, David.
Yeah, it wasn't and man, I'm asking the question. Man, if I remember right, the Eric Amarillo was really struggling. Their team was struggling, and they were, unfortunate things were happening to them. There were a lot of wrecks, had some mechanical problems. I mean, it was looking really, really slim for that 10 car to make the chase this year, and it wasn't that long ago. It's like, man, you almost felt bad for them, you know what I mean? Because they just couldn't put it all together. And man, it seemed like the last 4 or 5 races, I mean, they have come on strong, so, and so, I mean, anything's possible, you know what I mean? I think they're hitting their stride and things are starting to come together. You look at, and man, hey, let's talk about Matt Benedetto. He's trying, he's got a lot to, we know how talented he is as a race car driver, but man, he's racing for a job. He's racing for the future. And, you can't count out that 21 car. I mean, since they had a crew chief change, I don't know, 4 or 5 races ago, man, he's been in the top 10. He's been up near the front too. So, I mean, it's just, who knows, it's exciting, and anything's possible, and all the stories that we're all talking about is kind of cool, so I love it, man. I love what we do. I love our sport, and this is really cool how it's all playing out.
That's all another right. You're right. We didn't mention Matt Benedetto, Tyler. That's somebody who has yet to win a cup race. That's another name I could see. Matt has had those strong runs at the intermediate tracks, finished runner-up at both Vegas races last year. I feel like if Matt can get that first career win 100 for the Wood Brothers right before the playoffs start, that's going to be a team to really watch out for.
Okay, Dominic, since you got the numbers in front of you here, tell us who you think are going to be those final playoff drivers? How do you see this playing out?
You're putting all the pressure on me here. Okay. So you put me on the spot. I feel like we can still see a couple of surprise winners. I wouldn't put it past somebody like a Tyler Reddick or a Chase Briscoe to potentially rattle off a surprise win at Indianapolis in the Grand.
But do you think that's going to happen, though? If I made you put money on it, who gets those final spots?
Okay, if you're going to put money, I would say Tyler Reddick has to be one of these guys. He will get that first career win. And I think he does get that before the start of the postseason. And I feel like Matt DiBenedetto would be another likely candidate for that. I would not be surprised if you go and see the 21 car, write that Cinderella story, and capture his first win at Daytona and the 100th win for Wood Brothers. I feel like those would be the guys. Reddick at one of the road courses, DiBenedetto at the Super Speedway. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I think Tyler was saying who you think is going to be the last four standing. I think that's what you asked, Tyler.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, it's hard to, just listening y'all talk. It's hard to not say Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and
Kyle's already in, right.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the last four. You talking about coming down the last race of the championship, or are you talking about?
No. Last four to make the playoff of those remaining four spots.
Yeah. Okay. Man, I really think
we're actually three spots: 14th, 15th, and 16th are open.
Yeah, I think Kevin Harvick's going to be one of the guys, and I agree with Dominic. I think it's going to be Tyler Reddick because he's been consistently strong all year long, and I've been impressed with him. I watch him a lot. He's done, and they've done a tremendous job, consistent, always in the top 10. And then listening to Matt speak about Matt Benedetto, I think he's one that's going to surprise us. You know what I mean? And so I would say those three right there. And then I don't have the points laid out in front of me, so I don't know who's really from 16th back right now. But it's possible to see a really underdog. Maybe take a win at Daytona. You know what I mean? So. I don't know. I don't know. Just those three right now that come to mind, to be honest with you.
Guys, I'm looking at this playoff picture, and I don't think the final three spots change. I think it's going to be Hamlin, Harvick, and Reddick as those final three in. I don't see that changing. I think Austin Dillon, Buescher, DiBenedetto, those guys are left out. I think that there'll be some drama. It'll be exciting these next few races, but I don't see the top 16 changing.
Wow.
Hey, we're gonna see a move, a Ryan Newman move. Remember when Ryan, I forget it was Phoenix or somewhere, the last race before the playoffs, man, I don't remember who it was, but man, he ran into turn 3. It was turn 3 before they switched. Well, I don't remember. It was. Mm-hmm. Okay. And man, he used 8 wheels and man, he came out, he barely made it. So I think, like you said, Tyler, we're going to see some drama. You know what I mean? It's going to be fun and interesting, that's for sure.
Well, I got to say real quick too. That was cool at that race. That was before the Homestead race for the championship run in 2014. He had to move one more position up to knock Jeff Gordon out of transferring. And I was standing on pit road as the laps were winding down. We're all watching, okay, who's going to make it? And I was standing next to Ryan Newman's PR girl, Tracy Holtzapfel. And a little bit I've known about Tracy, she looks very business, very serious, doesn't show any emotion. And we're watching the big screen behind us at Phoenix Raceway. And Newman goes and doors Larson and gets past him. And I'm seeing her jump up and down. I've never seen so much emotion out of her my entire life. And you could tell she was happy. They knew Ryan Newman was in for that championship race at home. So what a cool moment.
Oh, yeah. I think about when Jeremy Mayfield won to get in the All-Star race in 2004, the very first chase that we had and such. I mean, that was phenomenal. And that became a thing, trying to pull off of Mayfield to get into the playoff. And that was before even the win you're in thing that we have now, a different time back then. David, before we move on, just the importance of making the playoff. I mean, not only are we talking about for competing for a championship, but now this era of drivers is going to be measured off their playoff appearances. When you look at, their case for the Hall of Fame someday or their resumes, we're going to look at the number of playoff appearances they had, which is different than the previous generation. When it comes to sponsors and paydays and such, if you're left on the outside, I mean, that hurts big time. It's so important to make the playoff beyond just competing for a championship, isn't it, David?
No doubt about it. It's it's just, it's just everything. And everybody wants to be in the top 16. And, those last, and I asked the question, is it 10 races in our playoffs?
Yes.
10 races.
The last 10 races, man, all the focus, the television, everything's about those 16 teams. And I think, it's such a big letdown when you're not part of the playoffs, and the momentum you have for your sponsors, for the team, the morale, everything, man. And I just, I just think it's so important. And Tyler, what you're saying, it's, careers and Hall of Fames, future Hall of Famers that are racing in the Cup Series right now. If you don't make those playoffs, I don't believe you're a former, you're going to be a future Hall of Famer. It's just, it's all about making the playoffs and being there. Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Harvick, some of these guys that are future Hall of Famers, year in and year out, man, you can count on them being in the playoffs. Their teams are solid. Their manufacturers are solid. Their sponsors are solid. And obviously the drivers are superstars, but man, it's all about being in the playoffs, giving your organization and your team and your sponsors an opportunity to win a championship, and
case in point, Eric Almirola. I mean, let's say that he wins, his first win of the year would have been Darlington, that first race of the playoffs, instead of what he won just a couple weeks ago at New Hampshire. I mean, you still miss the playoffs, and he's potentially out of a job. Now he wins that race a few weeks earlier. Timing's everything. Eric more than likely is going to be back next year. He's going to have a sponsor and everything. I mean, that's how important it is, Dominic, of making these playoffs and such is for, to save your ride, to save your seat. I mean, the pressure is as high as it's ever been.
You're absolutely right. And you make a great point there. You're right. Had that win come race 27. Okay, yeah, you're a Cup Series winner, but did you make the postseason? And just talking with different people and professionals from around the industry, they can use this as leverage to go to sponsors, to go to potential companies, the marketing department of these teams. Because look, we're a playoff contending team. We're a race winning team. We're a playoff racing team. There's so much leverage that comes with that and so much credibility and so much prestige that comes with just making the postseason. So you're right, Tyler. And I think as you continue to advance on, again, I'm just thinking back to that marketing department with a lot of these teams. They're able to say, look how far our drivers are able to go season and in, season out, and look at time and time again and what our guys are able to do because we're a playoff team. We're a race winning team. There's so much that goes even behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's go ahead and talk Watkins Glen. David, we know that there's more road courses on the schedule than there's ever been before, but there's still something special about the Glen and racing up there every year. And we haven't been there in a couple of years. Didn't get to go last year due to the pandemic. And now making this return, going to the OG road course track. Tell me what you think about Watkins Glen and what it brings to the table and the challenge ahead for these drivers this weekend, David.
Man, any road course is always challenging, even the guys that are really, really good at it. It's just, there's so many variables that come into play. Strategy, race strategy from when you fuel and when you pit and, brakes, braking transmissions, over revving an engine. Watkins Glen has always been one of my favorites. It's just the part of the country, upstate New York. It's beautiful. And the race fans, oh my God, man, it's going to be so packed this weekend. It's just a cool racetrack. If you're going to win a road course, you want to win, Watkins Glen. It's a big one. And, but man, it's going to be exciting. You know what I mean? And I'm just, over the years, just seeing how they pack that place and all the RVs and fifth wheels and tents and all the people love NASCAR up in the northeastern corner of the United States. And man, it's a great place. I've always enjoyed going up there, and definitely racing at Watkins Glen's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, Dominic, have you been up to Watkins Glen?
One of the few tracks I've never been up to. I would like to make it a point to go up there at some point. We're going to have a photographer up there for us this weekend, and Kyle Stevens always shoots that race for us, shoots the Charlotte races. We're going to get some good photos to use, certainly editorial-wise. How about you, Tyler? Is that a track you've been to or something that's on the short list to get to?
I would love to get to Watkins Glen because, David, it always seems like that Watkins Glen puts on a show, always down to the last lap. You never know what to expect. Some of these road courses can be boring at times, but I can't think of a track that's been more exciting for road racing than Watkins Glen.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. It's just you guys. You got to go at least once. Just the countryside and the Finger Lakes up there, and just the beauty of where the racetrack sits. Is just amazing, and the racing itself is just. As a road course, you talk some of them can get boring, not as a competitor, but as a fan to watch it. But Watkins Glen seems to produce some pretty exciting action on the racetrack, and just the way the elevation changes and the bus stops and just all the different things about Watkins Glen. It just makes it one of the more exciting road races that we race on every year.
Well, and then getting back to Watkins Glen, David, after not being there last year, we've had a couple tracks this year that we didn't get to last year that we're making this return trip for. What's it going to be like for the drivers and these teams to get back to Watkins Glen and see those fans that haven't seen them in a couple of years? I imagine this has got to be a unique experience for everybody involved to make this return.
Man, the enthusiasm of our sport, since our sport is kind of opened back up to the fans and our sponsors in the garage and everybody. I mean, it's just a different vibe you get when you're back at the racetrack to see all the race fans. It feels good. You're happy, you're excited, you want to run good. The fans are cheering your own. It's just, it's electrifying, man. It's cool. And I think that a lot of the teams and us drivers, we kind of feed off that, you know what I mean? And, judging from racing last year when there was no fans to having an exciting full house of race fans, man, it's just, there's nothing like it. And it's everything about our sport, so I think the race fans they're going to see something special this weekend with all the racing that's going to be happening there, so it's going to be good.
Well, and Dominic, the race fans there at Watkins Glen, I mean, this is close to the Canada border there, and the Northeast doesn't get a whole lot of races now. I mean, this is a big deal for them to have this return, I would think.
I think so too. 2 years overdue, right, for NASCAR to come back. And you look back at some of these races, I'm sure some of you guys have seen scrolling through social media, some of the races that NASCAR has dubbed some of the best races of all time. And I think back to that 2011, 2012 era of Watkins Glen, Marcus Ambrose, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski just going at it for the win. Those are the three guys coming down for the win all the time. A.J. Allmendinger in 2014. But especially that 2012 race where the lead just kept getting swapped back and forth, Keselowski and Ambrose. There's been some great racing that we've seen at Watkins Glen. And I feel like despite not going to that track last year, I feel like we're going to see some great racing. And the finish and the overall racing product we're going to see on Sunday is going to be far worth it, and will just be that much more because we didn't get to see any of it last year.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. And some of the memories over the years, David, what comes to mind right away in my head is that fight Juan Pablo had with Kevin Harvick. That's what I think when I think Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I mean, there's just
you remember that?
I remember that now. Two very tough competitors there. Two champions, and I remember back, and I'm trying to remember what year it was, 2003, 4. If Jimmy Johnson came down the front straightaway in the Busch race, and man lost his brakes, and man he had one heck of a crash going into turn 1 with no brakes, and then I remember him getting out of the car, and it was so spectacular, and he didn't get hurt. I think he was excited that he didn't get hurt. Hell, he jumped up on the top of it, was just cheering like he wanted to race because he was just excited that he didn't get hurt, But man, there's been so many good battles over the years there, and a lot of our superstar, former, a lot of our Hall of Famers. I mean, it's just a great racetrack that puts on a great race, and I think we'll see that this weekend in the Xfinity race and the Cup race.
Dominic, what comes to mind to you when you think back at some of the memories over the years at the Glen?
I think about when I was first starting to watch the sport as a kid and road course ringers, guys like Scott Pruitt, Boris Said, Ron Fellows, all these guys coming to run 2 races a year, and they were always in good equipment. I remember Ron Fellows being so mad. I want to say he even kicked his car. He was driving the one car for DEI in 2004, running down Tony Stewart, ran out of laps to be able to pass him. Remember Scott Pruitt at Sonoma a few years back, finishing 3rd behind Gordon and Jamie McMurray. I think back on those, but especially the road course ringers and some of these guys, even recent memory, right? Alex Kennedy, New Mexico homegrown, someone running at Watkins Glen, always a staple there in the mid-2010s. Tommy Dreese with the NASCAR movie paint schemes, or not NASCAR movie paint schemes, but the Hollywood blockbuster schemes, running for Nemco. All these different guys that would come running some of these races, and it was just really cool to see different faces, a lot of people with one-off deals, seeing what they could get out of their equipment.
And David, you're not running this weekend. Tell us about the plans for the 66 car. What you guys are doing there at MBM?
Well, man, we're only running 2 cars this weekend, and with the way it all works out, the way the points are and everything, my good friend Carl Long, my boss, team owner, we worked out, when we put our deal together, that he had some other drivers, and the way the points fall just works out better with the sponsor situation from a funding standpoint, for me to step out of the car and for them to put somebody else in it. It's for the overall best for our organization. Hey, believe me, it's man, come Friday and Saturday, it's like you got a knife stuck in you because you're not there competing, So, but anyway, I'm not the world's best road racer, and if I got to miss a couple, 2 or 3 road races, I'm okay with it, as long as we we go back to it on the ovals and can make our program stronger. Then that's kind of the positive side of it. But anyway, I'm disappointed that I won't be there at Watkins Glen, but I know it's best. It's for the best for organization to make it strong, keep it going, and to make our team stronger team in the future. So it's okay. So anyway, I'll be cheering for my teammates, and hopefully MBM will have a great race Saturday afternoon.
So David, when
go
you're
ahead,
not on the track, but you're still with the team, that sort of thing, how hands-on are you? Like on a weekend like this, how close will you be with making team decisions? How close will you be working with the other drivers?
Well, I talked to Carl on the phone the other day. He said, "Hey man, it'd be nice if you came and you could work with our drivers, and and I wouldn't mind doing that, but I got so many great partners, and then I'm involved in our own NASCAR racing school, and there's a lot going on with that. So if I have an opportunity, if it works out that I'm not racing that race, and sometimes my time's better spent back at home where I'm at, because I have other business type racing business, which is our racing school, to attend to. So I won't be at Watkins Glen this weekend, and I'm probably not going to run the Indianapolis road race the following weekend, but I'm definitely going to be there helping our team, helping our drivers. But man, if I'm at a racetrack, bitch, I can assure you that I'm not a great being there and not participating, that don't sit well with me. You know what I mean? So if I'm not racing, I'm usually not there, just as a competitor, and like I said, in my NASCAR career, there ain't been many weekends that I haven't been racing, so this year, with not racing a lot of the road races, it's been a little different for me, but I've taken advantage of it because of our NASCAR racing school, and there's a lot going on there, and myself, and so I'm taking advantage of the time off. But if I didn't have other NASCAR business away from the NASCAR racetracks that I'm racing at, then I would definitely be there. But my time for me in the racing school business, I need to stay back, so yeah.
So, David, what's been your experience at Watkins Glen over the years? Tell me about what comes to mind for what you've done in the race car there.
Man, just, again, I was talking about it earlier, just the variables, just, making sure you don't use up your brakes all at once, being consistent, hitting your marks, I've always tried to figure out, my braking points, my shifting points, and looked at my lap times and maybe tried something a little bit different to see if it helped it or hurt it. But, just racing smart, not overdriving the race car in the corners. Sometimes you can abuse your equipment. And I feel like if you can kind of save the equipment, if you don't have the best equipment underneath you, and going forward at the end was always something that worked well for me. You know what I mean? And but man, I have done. I mean, I've raced there a whole lot. I've broken axles. I wore my brakes out before the race was over, and couldn't finish the race because I didn't have no brakes. I've broken transmissions. And over the years and the experience, you learn to race hard, but not abuse your stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway, but man, it's hard not to abuse your stuff when you're trying to pass the guy in front of you or keep a guy behind you. It's easy to overdrive a corner, wheel hop the race car, and abuse your equipment. Sometimes, if somebody's putting a lot of pressure on you, you can do something stupid and break your transmission. So it's always, for me, was always to be consistent on your braking and your shifting, and don't let somebody else or the pressure rattle you that you do something stupid, but it's easy to go off course there. And, we've seen the leaders leading the race make a mistake, you know what I mean? And so it's a very challenging racetrack.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be that way, and that gives us a chance to transition over to our news and notes segment. And as always, Let's Go Racing is presented by Whataburger. Don't forget that every Whataburger is made fresh, served hot, and prepared just like you like it. Want jalapenos and cheese on that? No problem. They've got you covered. Whataburger, proud to serve it hot and fresh 24 hours a day. Dominic, today is National Watermelon Day, and I could not think of a better holiday for a guy that got some good news.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into Ross Chastain getting the chance of knowing he's going full-time cup racing again in 2022, this time with Trackhouse Racing. Trackhouse Racing announced on Tuesday, August 3rd, that Ross Chastain will pilot the #1 Chevrolet for the team in 2022, and it sounds like it's a multi-year deal. Recall that Trackhouse Racing announced June 30th that they had acquired the assets of Chip Ganassi Racing. That deal will take place at the end of the NASCAR 2021 Cup Series season. Well, at least we know where one of the silly season puzzle pieces has fallen. Dave, where do you think that's going to leave Kurt Busch?
Well, I don't know. I think he's got a spot. You know what I mean? I think Kurt Busch is going to land somewhere great. And here's my opinion. This is my opinion. I think Trackhouse would have hired Kurt Busch, but I think he already has a deal in place. And man, choosing Ross Chastain as your driver was a good move on Trackhouse's part. You know what I mean? Because that kid is a will man. He's aggressive, and I think he's got a big future in the sport. And I think that was a good move on Trackhouse's part to bring Ross on with them. But I really think, and I want to know y'all's opinion, I think, it's hard to pass up a former champion like Kurt Busch, and how strong he's been. I mean, hell, he's winning races, and he's really good with his sponsors and the sponsors that he has with him. I just think that Trackhouse knew, I think behind the scenes that he has a deal in place already, or I thought we'd have seen Kurt Busch go in that one car. That's my opinion.
I got a few things on that. I think Kurt's going to 23XI. He's going to drive that second car for them and go that route. I think that's where he's headed. But as far as Ross Chastain goes, I don't think it's fair to judge Ross Chastain based on, having 100 career starts. I mean, those were all, prior to this year in bad equipment. I think of him like a rookie. That's what he really is a rookie in the Cup Series. And if you look at him like a rookie, his numbers are really impressive, that he's had a really good rookie year. That's the way he should be viewed. And for Trackhouse, Daniel Suarez is still a young guy. Now you add in Ross Chastain, you're going for youth. I think that's what this is about for Trackhouse and Justin Marks, is they know that they're building this for the long term. Kurt, he's on at the end of his career at most. He'll race another year or two, I think, is kind of the consensus. I think that they're planning for the future. I think that's what this is about, Dominic, is getting basically a rookie in Ross Chastain and trying to build something from there.
I think there's some truth behind all that. I remember talking to Ross after the Sonoma race in 2019. He ran Premium Motorsports. So he ran a majority of the races. And I asked him straight up, okay, you were in Iowa, I believe, for the truck race the night before. Why are you doing this? What's the point? And he's like, man, this is all going to pay off someday. And we're seeing the fruits of that labor pay off with getting a multi-year deal like this with Trackhouse Racing. And Dave, I think there's some elements of truth there too. I would have thought Kurt Busch would be the obvious choice for Trackhouse Racing. The sponsorship with Monster works on those 2-year deals with Kurt. Kurt's definitely got a ride somewhere. They're just not announcing it yet. There could be other things in store for the 2004 champion, but you both are right. Great moves for Justin Marks and Pitbull Trackhouse Racing. They're certainly looking towards the future in this 2020 decade of the NASCAR Top Series.
Well, and guys, I know that we don't know the dollars and cents of what these guys are getting, but I would guess, David, that Kurt, when you look at this 23XI program, which he's been linked to, he's probably going to get a nice paycheck knowing this is a team that already has a lot of pressure on them to perform. The opportunity to get a proven Cup champion that's winning races, he's been consistently getting wins every year. I would think that it's probably a money thing. I bet that he's going to go to 23XI and get a pretty decent payday to finish his career.
Man, no doubt about it. Driving for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, I hear the same thing you guys hear, we're talking in the garage that there's plenty of backing there. You look at all the sponsors that are on Bubba Wallace's car. I mean, they got some great partners. And they don't have just great partners for 2021. They have some great partners for the future, and I believe, Tyler, that you're right. Having a Kurt Busch come drive, a former champion and a guy that's still winning races, and he can take that Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan racing team and really advance it with his experience and how he works with the team, his knowledge with working with sponsors. And, Kurt has it all. And I think that's really going to elevate the Michael Jordan team. And I think it is driven by money. I think they offered him what he's worth. And when they did that, that was a no-brainer for Kurt. Like you said, he's probably got 1 or 2, maybe possibly 3 more years left. And I guess he was going to go for the highest bidder. But that highest bidder, they have a manufacturer that wants to win. And you got a pretty powerhouse team right there, affiliated with Gibbs Equipment, Toyota. I mean, it don't get much better than that. But, I want to say Ross Chastain, he deserves the opportunity. And I'm not really surprised by it because as a rookie, as Tyler calls him, because he did drive lots of racing teams that didn't have the equipment, didn't have the funding behind it. And he impressed a lot of people. We know that not every team out there has multiple, has big backing, and a lot of teams, they struggle and they do the best they can under the circumstances, and the equipment is not there. But Ross drives these race cars over the years, and it's been impressive to see what he's done with these underfunded team and the equipment that he's driving. That he's really done a lot with it, and he deserves the opportunity, and I'm so happy for him. So I think it's a great watermelon day, and I think it's a great day for Ross Chastain. It's pretty awesome.
I hope Ross is friends with Alex Bowman, because that's the guy he can look at to model his career and be. is a similar path in the sense of those two have seen what Alex has become now. There's no reason why Ross can't do what Alex Bowman's doing, I think, in my opinion, as far as that goes.
Absolutely.
One more thing on this, Dominic. As far as these two teams go, I know that Trackhouse and 23XI started the same year, but to me, Dominic, it feels like these two teams are completely different spots. You have Trackhouse, which is building for the future, the long term. It feels like at 23XI, there's more pressure to win now. Do you feel the same way about these two organizations?
I agree with that. I think that's a good assessment of that because both teams, first-year organizations, there's a lot more pressure with 2311 because Michael Jordan is a co-owner of the team and they have all these Fortune 500 companies backing the organization. Denny Hamlin is a co-owner. I feel like the pressure's already there just because of who you have associated with who's involved at that organization. Trackhouse racing, maybe a little less pressure involved. I think the addition of Pitbull certainly brings a little more hype around that. But you're right, Tyler. I think the 23 team has had so much pressure. Let's be honest. When we open up the news Monday morning, people are wanting to know, like, where did Bubba Wallace finish? For better or for worse, because he is one of the guys being talked about. That team is being talked about. There's just so much pressure. And I had people asking me, like, well, why are they making a big deal out of Bubba Wallace finishing fifth at Pocono when he did a few weeks ago? I said, because people care. People want to know how this team is doing. There's so much pressure on it. And I feel like this is a good short-term move. When you put it in the terms of how you're putting it, Tyler, and how Kurt Busch, a proven winner, a proven champion of NASCAR's Elite Series, is potentially going to come to this organization in 2022, this is a good short-term move for that organization. They need a big jolt in the arm right now. Bubba Wallace has had some strong runs, but one top five in 22 races, you look at the pen and the paper, that's not what they're looking at. Trackhouse Racing is more top 10 finishes on paper with less pressure. We can all agree.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Dominic, what else we got on the news and notes front?
Well, NASCAR fans, if you're returning to a race weekend starting this weekend at Watkins Glen Raceway, or Watkins Glen International, rather, you're going to have to make sure to bring one of your face masks. NASCAR announced on Tuesday, August 3rd, that if you are coming to the racetrack, you will be having to use a mask in an indoor facility, whether that be a restroom, suites, media covering the race at the media center, any enclosed area, haulers. Now, that requirement is not outside. You don't have to have a mask when you're in the grandstands. If you're outside, you're eating or drinking, that's not the thing. But NASCAR is reapplying the reinstate. I think I couldn't even think of the word there. NASCAR is reinstating the face mask policy. There's no word on when that could be lifted, but with the growing concerns of the COVID-19 pandemic, NASCAR's made this move, and that will be the first race that we see him back at Watkins Glen.
David, I'll say this. I don't like wearing a mask as much as the next guy, but the fact that you don't have to wear this outdoors and don't have to wear it in the grandstands, that's good news. I don't think this should affect attendance. Yes, it kind of hurts morale, but that's the silver lining in all this. It doesn't affect the fans, really.
And hey, man, you know, we talk about it a lot on our podcast. It's all about the fans. You know what I mean? Just as long as the fans can come to a race outside in these beautiful facilities around the country and not have to wear a mask, I think that's a positive thing. You know, I think NASCAR, they're doing everything they can to keep obviously the COVID-19, keep it under wraps. It's, I'm seeing the same things y'all are seeing on the news, and they're just trying to protect the sport. But I'm not going to share all my opinions about it, but I think you kind of said it like it needs to be said. The fans are in good shape. They don't have to wear face masks in the stands, and it's all about the race fans. So we'll leave it at that. So, yeah.
Dominic, do you need to add anything?
I think you both pretty much covered it. That's it. I guess we can just mention, too, that Kurt Busch and Jeff Gordon both celebrate birthdays August 4th. Four-time champion Jeff Gordon and 2004 champion Kurt Busch celebrating birthdays this week.
Okay, so they're going to get the senior discount at Denny's. Congrats to those.
I think Jeff is. Kurt's not quite there, but Jeff, I think, turns 48.
Okay, very nice. Let's Go Racing, presented by Whataburger. Stop by Whataburger for a hot, hearty breakfast any morning or late at night. They're serving up breakfast from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Proud to serve hot and fresh 24 hours a day. Whataburger. All right, guys. Let's get to our Ask David segment. We ask you to submit questions to us on Facebook, David Starr Podcast, Twitter @Starr Podcast, and then by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com is where you can hit us up there. And David, I got an email here from Tracy that is going to be a little bit different than what we've done before. I hope you're ready for this. I need you to listen real clearly here. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. The subject line of the email. Dominic, should I even read the subject line or should I just get to it?
I feel like you should give him a heads up on the subject line. Sure.
Okay, the subject line is this, David. My friend asked me if it's okay to date my high school sweetheart, and for some reason, it doesn't feel right to me. Here's how it goes. Hey, guys, this is Tracy, and I'm a longtime fan and needed to get some perspective on something if you have a minute. So my friend, whom I've been friends with since 7th grade, went to our 20-year high school reunion last week, and I couldn't attend because I was on vacation with my husband and 2 sons. Anyway, at the reunion, he told me she really hit it off with Clint, who was my boyfriend junior and senior year. They're both divorced, and he contacted her yesterday to ask if she'd like to get dinner. When she told me and asked if it would be weird if she dated Clint and if I were okay with it, I said it was fine, but deep down, I wasn't happy about it, and I don't know why. Clint broke my heart when he broke up with me after prom, and for some reason, it still stings a little. I'm sure he's a different person now, but I never really liked him. The thought of them really hitting it off and me having to see him really upsets me. Should I feel this way now that I'm not married with kids? Should I tell my friend how I feel or just let it go? Signed, Tracy. David, what do you say?
Hey, man,
Wow.
we're racing people, man. We're not. Man, hey, hey, there's somebody out there for everyone. She got a beautiful. I'm sure she's got a great husband and beautiful kids. There's a lot of blessings in that, and everybody wants to be happy and be blessed like she is. So I don't see anything wrong with it. You know what I mean? So she went on and found a great husband and has a beautiful family and happy. And why can't her friends and her former boyfriend, they deserve that too. So hey, whatever, you know what I mean? So
David, I agree with you. If you're truly happy with who you got, it shouldn't matter who anyone else is with.
Absolutely. I want everybody to be happy. You know what I mean? I'm happy in my life, and we're all blessed. We got our blessings, and we all have good lives, and all my friends and race fans, and I hope the best for everybody. I want everybody to be happy, and if our racing show, our podcast, if we can bring a little light behind the scenes and talk about what we love and other people love, we can put a little spark of happiness in somebody. I mean, I love it, man. I love what we do. I'm happy. You guys are happy, and I want everybody to be happy in the world. I think if everybody was happy and had good attitudes and life was good, it'd be a better world. We know it's not like that, but I want everybody to be happy, and if people, if my best buddy wants to marry my ex-girlfriend, hey, more power to them. I want them to be happy, and whatever, so yeah. So it's I don't know. Just be happy.
David or Dominic, would you be okay with your buddies dating your exes?
That's a good question. I guess it remains to be seen.
Not the same answer David gave.
I like David's perspective on it. And for full disclosure, too, when I was listening
I found
to you,
my happiness, man. I'm good.
when you were telling the story, Tyler, I was kind of having a hard time, like, picking up on some of the details. So I was kind of relying on David to kind of fill the gaps, and he did. I mean, no, in all seriousness, yeah, if those two are gonna be happy, go for it. But you're right. I mean, even if we can't aim for happiness, right? Being content. I
know how they can find happiness if they don't have it. Just make sure you take it to a NASCAR race, okay?
There you go. That's a good idea.
Hey, love it. First race. There we go.
Absolutely, man.
The next email that we have for you, Dave, this one comes from Frank. Frank wants to know, David, what was your first car?
Man, that's a cool question. My Uncle Mike, and people that know me, my Uncle Mike has been like a brother to me. And ever since he taught me how to drive when I was, 7 years old, I sit on his lap and drive. He would work the gas and the brake pedal. And man, I'd drive across town, and he never touched the steering wheel. When I was 14, 15 years old, my first car was a cool, I think it was a 1977 or 78 442 Oldsmobile, Hurst O's, and it was awesome, man. And it belonged to Mike, and he gave it to me, and that was kind of my first car, man. And it was unbelievable, man. So that was kind of a cool, but a first car that I actually went out and bought on my own was a Chevrolet pickup truck, and I still have it. My parents have it in their garage there in Houston, Texas, and I still have it, and it's got a new paint job. It looks great, but I still have my first vehicle that I paid for was a Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck, a single cab.
Dominic, what was your first car?
First car, my parents got me a 1992 Pontiac Grand Prix to go to high school in. That was a pretty cool car. And then I don't remember exactly the details of what worked out, but I ended up driving a 2002 Honda Civic to school. That was my first vehicle. You, Tyler?
My first car, my parents gave me, it was a 2001 Ford Expedition. It was an SUV, and that thing took up so much gas. I was filling up and gas was high when I was in high school. David, get this. Every week and a half, I'd fill that thing up for $75 a tank.
Oh my God, that was expensive, man. Hell, I'd have to borrow money from my parents to fill up a gas tank, man. Wow, that was expensive.
Yeah, that's where all my money went from high school, was just trying to get gas, just to get around.
And Tyler, you probably weren't even cruising to school or cruising on Saturday. You were just going to school. You're probably not even having extracurricular.
Hey, you know what? Back then, when I was in high school, it didn't matter. I think just having something to drive and not having to walk and be able to drive over to a friend's house or the track meet or, to the racetrack or wherever. I just thought it was cool that we could start driving and drive anything. I remember we had a car at my dad's automotive transmission shop, and it was a Ford. God, I don't even remember what it was, but it was a god awful, ugly car that a customer never came back and paid for. And my dad got the title to it, and it was just kind of a shop car that we'd loan to our customers or whoever, but it was so ugly, nobody wanted to drive it. And man, I used to love driving that thing because it was just so ugly and hideous looking. But man, I just thought, man, it was cool because I was driving, I didn't have to walk, and you sit back and think about it, no matter what that first car was or some of your first cars, I can assure you it was a hell of a lot better than walking, you know what I mean? So that first car, whatever it may have been for whoever it may have been for, was worth $1 million because we didn't have to walk anywhere and we could drive. So it was pretty cool.
Okay, true story, guys. What I would do with my car, we had open campus lunch in my high school, and there was a Whataburger about 2 or 3 blocks down the road. So I was driving my Expedition about once a week to Whataburger for lunch.
That's where all your gas money was going, Tyler.
Well, that's pretty awesome, Tyler. And still today, we're still driving to Whataburger eating. I had Whataburger for lunch today, and so we're still doing the same things we did when we were younger in high school and even before high school, dude.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. And one time when I was in high school, Garth Brooks showed up at that Whataburger just to have some dinner. Yeah.
But hey, I don't care who you are or where you live at in the United States. And if, we're all famous in our own ways, you know what I mean? I don't care if it's a celebrity, a Hollywood movie star, or a baseball player, football player, country singer. Everybody likes Whataburger. You know what I mean? Everybody loves Whataburger. So I think it's awesome, dude. And I can't believe, so Garth Brooks went to the same Whataburger that you used to go to, right, Tyler?
Yeah. He showed up there after his kids' track meet. He was hungry. He wanted some Whataburger.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. You know,
I got to tell you guys, too, it was awesome last week. I was visiting my brother, Martin, who you guys have met on the podcast, Coach Martin Aragon. He's coaching in Albuquerque now. And I was visiting him at his place. My girlfriend and I went over, and we went swimming. And guys, I had a big dinner, right? You all know me. I can eat a lot of food. We go swimming for a couple hours. I got out of the pool. I was so hungry. My stomach was rumbling. So I opened my phone, and I ordered 2 double burgers from Whataburger. I went and picked it up at the location, which was about a mile from the house. That was a great meal right before going to bed.
I love it, man. I'll give you some Whataburger before bed myself. That about do it for today's edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. As always, you can subscribe to the show, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and also on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review. Hit that subscribe button, the like button, all that stuff. Or don't leave us a review at all. We certainly would appreciate that. On social media, on Twitter, at Starr Podcast, Facebook, David Starr Podcast, email davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com. David, before we go real quick, tell us about the next few days ahead.
Oh, man, I got a court date tomorrow.
That's a good run. Nice knowing you, David.
Hey, man, sometimes that happens, you know what I mean? And so got a court date tomorrow, and then I got a small meeting early tomorrow morning, and I got some racing school business the rest of the week to do, and do a little yard work, finish up some projects around my house. I will be going to a dirt track Saturday night, take my boys, and so just just busy here at home with stuff, with racing stuff, the racing school stuff, and we'll be have my eyes on and talking throughout the weekend with my team to see what's going on in Watkins Glen. So excited about the Xfinity race Saturday afternoon, and obviously the Cup race. But even though I won't be in Watkins Glen this weekend, I got a pretty busy weekend myself.
Dominic, tell me about what you got going.
We'll be here in Grants, be spending some time with the family. We'll get to see my brother in the coming days as well. And yeah, just enjoy the little downtime here in Grants, New Mexico. Oh, and I got to show you guys real quick too. I have a brand new wallet. I was really proud of it. So that's what's keeping me busy over the next few days. Got a new wallet a few days ago. Man.
Y'all know where I can get one of those?
Yeah, I know a guy. I might be able to hook you up.
Oh, awesome, man.
We might have to give away some David Starr Racing. Let's Go Racing with David Starr wallets here on the show pretty soon.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
With all the money included. Yes.
What about yourself, Tyler? What's going on next couple of days, buddy?
Oh, man, just keeping it 100 around here. Just enjoying life, to the fullest and such. And I mentioned Garth. I'm actually going to go see Garth in concert next week. So,
dude, I'm excited for you. Don't get much better than Garth Brooks, man. He loves to perform, and you're like, man, I know he's going to stop now. The guy just keeps singing, So when you leave his concert, you got your money's worth, He's a performer, that's for sure.
Yeah. We'll put the checkered flag out on this episode. We'll see you guys back here next week as we'll recap Watkins Glen and have a great guest ahead. We'll let you know who that is coming up in the coming days. For Dominic Aragon, David Starr, and Tyler Jones saying so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.